Before we go into this episode of the Ever Black podcast, we just need to give a shout out to our show supporters, the occult clothing brand Electric Witch, who have amazing apparel from shirts to hoodies to hats to beanies, dresses and more. Check out their full range at electricwitch.com.au and put in the code EverBlack for 20% off your order. Also, don't forget to subscribe, rate and review the Ever Black podcast on Spotify and iTunes podcast streams, and see all our video interviews on the Ever Black YouTube channel. You can also read all our articles and reviews at everblack.com.au. All right, on with the show.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man. Juliet, my name's Nev. It's absolutely an honor to have you on my show today. I'm very, very excited about this movie, A Place Among the Dead, which it's described as a revealing and terrifying exploration of our fascination with vampires. But I feel like there's a lot more going on with this thing under the surface that the trailer doesn't really, it alludes to, but man, this thing's got layers and I can see it. How far does this rabbit hole really go? Because I'm excited.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. The movie explores the repercussions of growing up under the sway of narcissism and evil. And my husband, Deverill Weekes, and I co-wrote and co-produced the movie. And we really wanted to make a movie that we hadn't seen before and tackle something that hasn't been covered in films and really isn't talked about in society as a whole, but is really the most important issue of our time. And we are starting to talk about it, and we are yearning for this. If you type in the word narcissism into Google, the numbers are staggering. There are 9,120,000 YouTube videos on the subject. There are 70,400,000 Google results. And when you type in psychological abuse, there are 188 million Google results. We're, of course, getting at this through art and entertainment.
I think it's super important. Really, really important what you guys are doing with that. Is it a hard thing to tackle? When you started to approach the subject, where did you even start? Obviously.
Yeah, Dev and I, Dev is my husband's, it's Deverill, but I call him Dev. And, we both come from this kind of background and thought like, okay, how should we best tell this? And we thought that the best way of doing that was to make the movie searingly personal. Yes. As they say, the more personal, the more universal. And we really wanted to invite the viewer to become the participant. And we wanted it to be an emotional and a visceral experience. The whole point was to make an entertaining movie, but also to give voice to what has affected many and to open up a dialogue. And that's exactly what's been happening. We've been doing these screening events, and we're talking today, we're going to be talking about the one that we're doing with Supernova, with Australian partner. And it's just been so profound in terms of the interactive audience. Zooms have been going on for 4 hours, and it's just been really powerful.
I guess for the people that have been joining in on those chats, has that been people sharing their personal stories with you and things like that? It must be.
It has. It's been, I think, because the nature of the movie, and it is the reason we sort of used our joint sort of story. I play an alter ego version of myself, as does Gary Oldman, Ron Perlman, Robert Patrick, Lance Henrickson, Joss Whedon, and best-selling author Anne Rice appearing for the first time ever in a movie. And the movie is completely scripted, but it is a meld of fact, fiction, and the fantastical. And I think because of how it was interesting, I talked to a journalist last week of a major publication, and she said, and I've talked to her throughout the years from way before Buffy, during Buffy, we've done a lot of interviews, and she said, I was so excited to talk to you about this movie because the way that it's crafted, I felt like you were speaking directly to me, like in this way that wasn't like even to the rest of the audience, like literally just to me. And it made me reflect on my own life. And she shared something with me about her own history and having been sexually molested as a pre-teenager, which I never knew before. And we started talking about the whole thing of, coming through trauma and how, the warrior in her that has crafted this incredible life and very successful life. And how do we do that? My character, my alter ego in the movie is making a lot of destructive choices. Hopefully I'm not doing that in my own life anymore, but I did. We really wanted to look at that idea that, if you let your past run the show, you'll keep recreating it.
It seems that also that the subject of narcissism it seems like it's really popping up in the media at the moment, with especially with celebrities, certain celebrities being being brought to light, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What's one of the things that I was just going to say, and that you made me think of, is in the talk bags, whether it is someone's, familial, we're looking at family, but it also can, whether it's a spouse or an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend or a friend or a coworker or a boss or our world leaders, it almost comes out when we're talking, where people say, oh my gosh, it sounds like we are describing one person, because the traits are so much the same. And we have been seeing an escalation, cruelty and bad behavior and narcissism in our society. And people are saying, I don't want that. And what's incredible is that these conversations, that people talk about the movie and then they share their own stories, and then they talk again about the movie, and then they say, oh, this part, and this is the part that resonated for me. And it really was our intention in making the movie, was to be having these conversations.
It's super important. And I really, I'm blown away by that. I'll be honest, I didn't know what to expect in regards to where this movie was going to be going. But as I said, I had that feeling that there's so many layers to this thing, and it's so well thought out and so heartfelt. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I think that, oh man, I'm blown away.
We've already,
amazing.
I have to say, the thing that you're saying is like, we've already, the response that we've been getting on social media and people writing emails to our production company and stuff has literally been like, was life-saving for me, or oh my gosh, I have just gotten out of I got out of a relationship 3 years ago, and I'm only just now getting a sense of myself, and I didn't know what that was, and I now recognize this. Or oh my gosh, I've never talked about this before, but, or it's just been, we had a gal whose fiance committed suicide, and she said, his mother was a narcissist, and it was narcissistic abuse. And she said, the thing with the movie is it made me understand him, and it gave me peace from that experience. I understand this now. And then people that don't come from this have been saying that it really made them reflect on their own parenting and their own, because we really also look at the sort of agreements we all make with our parents, and how those become the thoughts in our minds and become the voices in our heads, our inner monologue, and can often lead to destructive choices and destruction if it's not healthy. And so that's been a whole other interesting thing too. And it turns out, if you look at studies, that even people that come from the most stable and loving backgrounds, 80% of the thoughts in all of our minds are negative, which is astounding. People are very derisive and nasty to themselves in their own minds.
And the internet doesn't help that either. Like this, it just goes round and round and round and round.
Right.
It's just crazy. But as you said, I really hope that more and more people see this movie and get that positive message and help from it. I mean, that's incredible. But how was it turning the camera on yourself? I mean, you've got all these different tasks putting this thing together, but then you've got to focus and put your own performance into it. I mean, how was that?
It was definitely a lot of work because we raised the financing, we did all the pre-production, we co-produced, we co-wrote. Then, I was, it's an interesting changing between being subjective and objective in terms of being a director and then being an actor. And so you're constantly flipping between the two.
Yeah.
And especially with the nature of the movie, where it's very much a roller coaster ride of an emotional roller coaster ride. But it was, I actually ended up, I really loved it. It's amazing to have, and you're a filmmaker as well, right?
I'm a musician,
You're a
podcaster,
musician.
musician. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So what, and do you write stuff from scratch and as
Yeah.
well? Like, yeah. So the whole process of, like, having an idea and it's sort of coming from you and then seeing it all the way to the fruition when you've recorded a song, there is nothing really like that, right?
No, that's it. That's it. But there's that little moment between finishing and then other people hearing it.
Mm.
It's like this you're in the void, and then you just, the people are gonna dig it, or they're gonna either,
Right.
you're like, it's like waiting for Christmas, and then it drops, and then you get that feedback, and it's like boom, you get that rush of adrenaline, and it's nothing like it. You're absolutely right there. It's the best thing
Yeah,
in the world.
it's funny when you're describing that, because there is that stuff to that moment in that limbo, and same with a film. It's such a long process, so you have all that time in the edit bay where you're
Yeah.
going, well, I think this is working, and then that time period where it finally is born, and it's your baby coming out into the world.
But I mean, and it's getting out there now. I mean, all these screenings and stuff. Like, I mean, when was the first screening?
Well, it's been incredible. Our distributor is Modern Films, and
Yeah.
they are an amazing company. They're have incredible taste. They just released Werner Herzog's last film, and also Viggo Mortensen's directorial debut.
Wow.
They have been, one of the things that why we partnered with them is they like to do special events, and we came in with ideas of partners and like Supernova, and they said, oh my god, that's amazing. And so we did our first one. We actually did it with New York Comic Con and Mac Cosmetics. We brought to the table and thought that would be an interesting premiere, so we did that as a premiere. And the thing that's been so amazing is that we can gather everyone from all over the world, can gather, watch a movie at once, and then talk about it. And it is, especially right now, to be able to have that community and connection and talking about things that are important and make your life better. It's a really offset some of everything else that's going on in the world.
And I guess you get to enjoy that premiere over and over again with people, joining in on you know what I mean? Like, it's not, one big cinema.
Right. No, it's been exactly. That's the thing that's so incredible. And in fact, we extended this window of the distribution because of the success and the demand of these screenings. We have so many people have come to every single one. They're actually calling themselves A Place Among the Deadheads, like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's been amazing. And, and then we will be opening worldwide, and then, going on to the streamers, and we're doing all of that. But we really wanted this part of having the interactive element and getting to talk with people and getting to hear people's stories. And, we did an event right near Christmas, and we thought, a lot of people deal with this in families over the holidays. Let's see if people show up. And it was packed. I mean, it was like insane from all over the world. And many people actually ended up writing us afterwards and saying, look, I'd never thought about it, but I decided not to be with my family this holiday, even virtually. Like, they're toxic people, and I never thought that was an option for me, and that it isn't an option for everybody. But it's good to know if it's really unhealthy, that it's okay. You can have a better life by not interacting with certain people if you don't have to, and if that's your choice.
How does it feel putting out that powerful message and helping people in that way?
It There's nothing like it. I mean, I'll get all like emotional talking about it. I mean, we've been also working with such incredible people. There's Dr. Romani is the premier expert on narcissistic personality disorder and narcissistic abuse. She's a psychologist, an author. Each one of her videos gets 400,000 to 1 million views. She has been really championing the film and said that, you know, we're doing through art and entertainment what she is doing through academia. We've had tomorrow we're actually doing a podcast with a USC psychology professor that came and saw the film. We've done a few educational screenings. A high school teacher came to the film twice. She brought the department head, the head of the school board, and her son. They loved the movie. She got permission from her, the department head to do, and we did a special screening with these high school students, and it was just so profound. And you know, Dev and I say if we'd seen a movie when we were that age, it could have changed the course and journey of our lives.
That's incredible. That's mate. Both of you guys are doing.
That school, we were like, we want to go to high school because it looks like the most amazing school, and the kids were so engaged and so it was incredible. And the high school counselor Hector was there, and everything that they said, it was just wonderful.
That is awesome. That is so good. But you've got all these people like Gary Oldman, Ron Perlman, Robert Patrick, Lance Henrickson, mate. These guys are like heroes of mine, and you've got them all in the one film. Like, how did you get all these guys in for their roles? I mean, this is incredible.
They are amazing humans as well as brilliant talents, all of them. It was a really serendipitous experience. Not one person that we reached out to said no. And I think that they really believed in the message of the movie and the vision I had for it. Dev and I sort of have done everything on this movie very outside of the box. And it's actually worked really well. The movie itself is outside of the box. What we're talking about is outside of the box. Actually, it's really in the box, but it's to be talking about it is outside of the box. And so we just wrote and approached people. The very first person I wrote to was a cold email I wrote to Anne Rice, and we had a phone call and she said yes. And the same thing with Gary Oldman was the next person. And I had worked with Gary a number of times, as had my husband. So we, sent him the material and he said yes. And it went on from there. I actually work out at the same gym as Ron Perlman. So I approached Ron at the gym, and it was funny because I said, I'm about to do something that, I never do. I'm about to accost you at the gym. And he said, I've been waiting years for you to accost me at the gym. And so it was great. And it was funny because when I told him who was in the movie, he goes, yeah, but they're all unknowns. I don't know if I could do this movie. So, and then Lance, I just wrote his manager, and she, and it turned, now I've since that interaction, because I loved her so much, she's my manager, and Lance came aboard. And when we did, they've been so present in terms of promoting the film as well.
So good. Like, it's such a special project. And the one thing that seems to tie them all together is they've all been in vampire films.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's really cool. 'Cause for me, like, talking about Gary Oldman, when I think it was about 11, I went and saw opening weekend. I went and saw Bram Stoker's Dracula. And
at 11. Wow, cool.
Man, I was so obsessed with that movie. Like, I think it was just incredible. And then obviously there was other ones like Monster Squad, and the vampire thing when you're that age is pretty cool.
Yeah. And Bram Stoker's Dracula, that's pretty cool to see that in the movie at 11, movie theater at 11 years old, because it was so operatic in terms of the way the sets and that makeup when he's the old man, and he's so wonderful in it.
Oh, and the armor was a thing that got me.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
So metal.
Yeah. All of that. Yeah, it was really all of the costume design was so incredible in that movie.
Oh, mate, it's one of my fondest memories. But do you have a memory of like a vampire that really sort of sticks to your, memory?
It's interesting. I mean, there's so many good vampire movies. I think the main reason that I sort of used it for this movie was, first of all, to make an entertaining movie. If you actually Google vampires, there are 278 million Google results. So obviously, it's a genre people really like, and it's $1 billion industry. Vampires, believe it or not. But I also wanted to do what you said, which is to tie in my history and all of the other actors' histories, and to lull the audience into a sense of safety using a genre that they're comfortable with to talk about unsafe, uncomfortable, radical ideas. And lastly, and very importantly, is I thought that the vampire was the perfect metaphor for the ultimate narcissist. It's a being that drains all for its own needs and its own survival with no concern for its prey. If you're not talking about familial narcissism, where you don't have a choice, often you invite narcissistic people into your life, and they're often very charismatic and have people under their thrall. Narcissists don't change. Vampires don't change. Narcissists have no ability to self-reflect. Vampires cannot see their own reflection. It just seemed like the perfect way to sort of investigate what we wanted to look at.
You guys have put so much thought into this thing. Hey, like, that's incredible. Like, hearing that, like, wow, that's amazing. That is, I mean, I knew it. I knew that this movie, there was something really quite special. I'm so excited to actually see it and sit down and watch it with everybody. Oh, of course, I mean, Buffy, I have to ask about Buffy. Like, that was such a massive cultural impact. And you as Drusilla, that's some iconic stuff. I mean, people still talk about it and watch it to this day. Like, it just, and you had your own action figure as well. I mean, have you got one?
Yeah.
Have you got one?
It's funny. They gave me a couple, and I also, by the way, did a thing for I was the voice in BioShock, so I have a few different action figures, which is pretty cool. Also, I was a character named Tala, voiced Tala in the Justice League Unlimited series, and so I have a few different little versions of myself, which is kind of a trippy thing.
That is pretty cool. I mean, have you got them up on a shelf or somewhere? I mean, obviously you can see my little, I don't know, whatever.
I love what you have. I'm the opposite. I'm not a collector, so it's actually funny. My husband's always like, "Oh, I can't." For instance, they offered me some of the Buffy wardrobe, and I said, "Oh, well, what would I ever do with that? Why would I need to keep it?" So I didn't take it. The only reason I have the action figures is because Fox sent them to me. Like, each of the times I've done the job, but they've been sent to me, and then by that point, my husband was like, "You are keeping these. Like, you need to listen to me, and we're keeping these." So.
He sounds like a really cool guy.
Yeah, he is. He's really awesome, and I love all that you've got there. What would you say is your favorite piece, or is it hard to pick one?
Very hard to pick. This whole room is a mishmash of all different kinds of stuff from like 80s and 90s, and I got Mandalorian and stuff like that too. But it's all I love it so much. Like, this whole, yeah. That's another thing about Buffy is a lot of actors cut their teeth on that in little guest roles, and now they're all gone up. Like, Pedro is now the Mandalorian. He was in early episode.
Also, Amy Adams did an episode of Buffy, and Jeremy Renner.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, makes me want to go back and watch it from the start and pick everybody out. I mean, it's such a special thing globally.
It's fun. It really, I was just talking with David Greenwalt, who was the co-creator of Angel, and also he co-created NBC's ABC. Grimm, NBC's Grimm. And David is actually going to come on the Supernova Day. We're going to be doing some meet and greets as well. So some of the people, besides the people in the film, some of the champions of the film and people who have been really supporting us, like David Greenwald, like Julie Benz, who played Darla on Buffy, like Kristen Bauer Van Straten, who played Pam on True Blood. They're all going to be there for the meet and greets. But David Greenwald was saying he actually recently just watched all of Buffy and all of Angel sequentially, and was saying it was fun for him to revisit and see how much this how timely it still is.
Mate, I've got a lot of friends down here who are massive Buffy fans, and
that's cool.
Shout out to the Ralstons. But as I said, like, it made such a massive cultural impact, especially for girls. Like, it was a hero for the girls to
strong, powerful. Absolutely. It's wonderful in that way, and all the female roles in it too are just so rich. All of them, not just the central Buffy character, which is such a wonderful role model.
Yeah, I mean, you were fantastic. Every episode that you pop up,
I'd be unstable. Like, are you there?
Oh yeah, I think we are down under here. We're like arse end of the world, really.
Okay. Oh.
We're like right down here. I'm like, I think you're up there somewhere, really. So that's probably why it's chopping out a little bit.
Okay, well, at least we've done pretty good till now. So
that's it, eh? Do you think that, obviously reboots and things like that, like, how do you think that would translate now that Buffy?
I think it would. Buffy's been trending again during COVID. People have been watching and revisiting it. And the thing with Buffy was it was a show that people watched, and then they've watched it with their kids, and now they're watching it with their grandkids. And not all shows can you do that with. They're either too racy or they don't hold up, or So I always think that coming of age and the idea of high school as a nightmare, which is the sort of intrinsic metaphor of the show, is definitely something that is timeless.
And something I've noticed about your career is that you've played a lot of darker characters. It seems like you know what I mean. It's you're drawn to those darker roles, those meaty roles. Is that something that you really seek out?
I've played a mix of roles, but I think often if people have seen you in something and they know that you can go there and they're looking for a particular type of thing, then you'll get offered something that's has some of that same thing. But I've done a tremendous amount of theater, voiceover, television. Like, I just was actually recurring on TNT's show Claws, and that character is very different and very and then last season before this one, I was recurring on Amazon show Bosch, although she was a dark character. But I've gotten a chance to do a lot of different stuff, and one of the projects that we're working on now and putting together, it's a comedy, and it's fun and light and funny. So it'll be nice, to be doing that stuff for a while too.
Do you find that, some actors will say that their characters sort of follow them home? You know what I mean? Do you have to kind of shake them off a little bit?
I mean, with Drew, I was able to sort of leave Drew. Thankfully, I think for my husband, would be grateful for that. Although we weren't together at the time, but at least I'm not sort of Drewish off, away from set. But sometimes it depends. If something is really dark and painful, I mean, I did a production of Streetcar Named Desire playing Blanche, and it's there is a lot of humor actually in that play, but it's the trajectory of the character. It's just so painful. She literally gets raped and then carted off to the mental institution at the end of the play. There are certain times where you sort of have to go, okay, I'm leaving that behind now. I'm leaving the theater. There's another play I did called Danny in the Deep Blue Sea, which again had a lot of humor, but was, the character was in a lot of pain. And so there would be a moment where it was like, okay, leaving that and going home now.
Wow. Because I mean, where you guys as actors, that realm that you play in, it's not like just getting up in. I think there has to be a very strong emotional connection to be able to bring that out in the character. So that's always fascinated me how that process sort of works for people, getting themselves out of that headspace.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes it's your job as an actor technically to get into that headspace, and then it's your job as an actor, especially if you want to have a healthy life, to get out of that headspace. And that's part of this thing of learning sort of technique of what to do. But there's certain things like on the play, the Danny and the Deep Blue Sea play, my husband actually would come every night because he loved how the show varied night to night, and we ended up running for 6 months. We were supposed to run for 6 weeks, but we were sold out. We were critics pick in the LA Times, and like every 12 out of 12 publications in Los Angeles, like raves. And Los Angeles is not a theater town, but we were booked and we had to add seats every night, and it was just this incredible experience. But I would be weeping at the end of the show every night, and Dev would come backstage and like he would hug me, and the minute I'd be like, okay, letting that go now till tomorrow night. So whatever way, people have different rituals and different things to do. When it's harder sometimes is when you're doing a very long shoot, like you hear about The Shining, like the Kubrick thing with Shelley Duvall, and that she was I worked with the sound designer on sound mixer on set, had worked on The Shining, and when I was working on Ed Wood, he told me that it was crazy because they did like 200 takes of those intensely over the moon emotional scenes. And often in the film, Kubrick ended up using the first or second take, but he had Shelley Duvall like going over and over and over. And there is a point where you're like, did she need to keep doing that for 16 hours a day for 6 months? Like, I don't know, but it's brilliant. It's a brilliant movie. So obviously, it all was incredible. But yeah, that sometimes that when you're shooting, it can get where you're just like, okay, can we schedule something in between this a little bit for the next few days or something?
I want to do something different. Come on, man. I've done this take. I mean,
but it's also cool because when you're in an emotional state, the thing that's interesting is that, each take is different and fulsome and whatever. So there's something like, I love actually doing a lot of takes. It's one of the things I loved working with Tim Burton, because Tim Burton, it's almost like you get that thing of rehearsing on camera. So it's a really wonderful thing if you have, I have a theater background and I love that. So
that would have been incredible working with Tim.
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah. It was literally like almost obscenely fun to go to work because it was contagious in terms of his also enthusiasm. On Ed Wood was a movie that was his sort of love letter to filmmaking, and so I think it was a real passion project to him for him. And so yeah, it was pretty amazing.
I love that movie so much, so much. It's like
awesome.
I don't know. What a career you've had, mate. Such an incredible career, and it's just more and more exciting things on the way. But one thing I was going to ask is, I mean, hopefully when everything sort of hopefully goes back to normal, can we see you down here in person? I mean, it's
yes, I would love. I cannot wait. I loved Australia. My husband and I just loved it. So we knew we were going to love it, but we didn't know to the extent. And so far we've been to Sydney, we've been to Melbourne, Perth. I got to go to Phillip Island and see the little penguins. That was just an unbelievable experience. And we just loved it so much. Like everything about it is beautiful. It was beautiful everywhere we went.
Wait till you see the Gold Coast, mate.
Oh my gosh. I know. I've seen pictures. I can't wait to see it in person.
It's awesome. Like, I gotta say, I'm pretty lucky. You always want to be where you're not. You know what I mean? You always get that, it'd be so, but mate, I gotta say, like, I drive to work and, I've got the ocean that way. I forgot which direction is which here, but, and then the mountains on that side. And, mate, it's pretty good. I think you'll love it. You guys won't want to leave. You'll just be like, we're just going to relocate here.
Yeah. No, I think we might. It's funny. We had that when the few times that we've been also to Hawaii. I don't know if you've ever been to Hawaii. it's so beautiful. And when you're leaving, you're like, why are we going back? Why are we not staying here? And we had that same thing in terms of Australia.
Oh, mate,
I can't
so
wait to
many.
see what you see when you drive to work, the way you painted the picture. I just am like, oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, well, there's certain points,
Yeah.
like there's in between when you like white knuckle grabbing the steering wheel, screaming at traffic. But then when you get past,
Right.
that's okay.
Of course.
You know,
Road rage. Right.
it's gonna be like, oh, turn up the music a little louder. But we would absolutely love to see you guys down here. But in the meantime, tickets are on sale right now for the special online screening and A Place Among the Dead, mate. It's going to be incredible. All the sales links will be down here.
Perfect.
You guys stay safe over there, and it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you.
It has been so fun. It just flew by talking to you. So I had the best time.
Aw, that means a lot. Thank you,
I
mate.
did. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 13th. So,